meeting, and I'd like to welcome you all. I'd also like to extend a warm welcome, and I hope that she will enjoy being a councillor, Louise Jones, who is back with us. Welcome, Louise. We're pleased to have you and hope that you will enjoy the 2 years left of this council before the elections in 2023. Since this is the first full council meeting since the passing of Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, and also those of you who were here in pre-2015, Tracy Windsor, who worked with us for quite a while and worked her way up through the system. So we will observe a minute's silence in memory of Prince Philip and Tracy Windsor, and also for quiet reflection for our own thoughts. So we'll have a minute for quiet reflection, please. Thank you. Thank you. The next item I have is apologies for absence. Darryl, could we have the apologies for absence, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. We have 4 apologies for this afternoon's meeting from Councillors Baldry, Jackson, Kemp and Spencer. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Darryl. And then we move on to item 1 proper, which is the election of Chairman of the Council. I invite nominations for the Chair of the Council for the ensuing year. Could we have the nominations, please?
Madam Chairman, I would like to propose Councillor Foss as Chairman for the coming year, please.
Thank you.
I will second that.
Fine, thank you. Any further nominations? Any further nominations for Chairman of Council, please? All those in favour, please show.
That's 25 in favour. Thank you, Chair.
It's
not unanimous.
Anyone against? Any abstentions?
With 2 abstentions.
Thank you.
Chair.
Turn over the page. Thank you. So I have great pleasure in declaring that Councillor Richard Foss is duly elected as Chairman of the Southampton District Council for the ensuing year.
Thank you, everybody. I'll read the declaration of acceptance. I, Richard Foss, having been elected to the office of Chairman of the South Hams District Council, declare that I take upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. All right. Of course, with the we won't do the normal swapping of change as we would normally do. I will attempt to put that on there for now, and we'll do something later. Right. Well, thank you, everybody. It's my pleasure now. My acceptance speech now, I would like to start off with thank you all for voting for me as your chairman. The first thing I would like to do is make a very big thank you to Rose for the outstanding job that she has done in the extremely difficult circumstances we find ourselves in. Others will no doubt have things to add in a minute. I do, however, feel a tinge of sadness. As you will know, I lost my wife Judy to cancer just before Christmas. I want Mr. help and advice, which all chairmen need. Those who met her would agree she would have made a wonderful consort. I hope the council will indulge me in as much that Judy raised many tens of thousands of pounds for both cancer and the air ambulance. So these will be my charities for the time of being chairman, if it becomes possible to hold any events once we got through this pandemic. The pandemic has left its mark on all of us. The way we've carried on with running this council and the day-to-day business could not have been so successful without the much criticised T18 project. I think all the officers and you as councillors should take great credit for the monumental effort that has been made to keep this council running its day-to-day business. I suspect there will be a great deal more of home working for the foreseeable future. However, the carbon footprint of this council has been greatly reduced by the new way of working. In fact, I contacted Officer Drew Powell to give me some figures which you may well be interested in. We've cut our travelling by 85%, our business miles by 50%, which means we have saved with the equivalent of 280 tonnes of equivalent carbon, which I think is quite some feat and something to learn from that. I say this with a bit of trepidation being sat here now, but I do, however, welcome the fact that meetings like this can now be held. I think we agree that this is much preferred way for public meetings to be held, and those important discussions we all have before and after such meetings. The pandemic has also left its mark on all the residents in many ways. Many of us have lost loved ones, been severely restricted on saying goodbye to them. And on this subject, I would like the officers here and in all town parishes and parish councils to see if they have any areas of land that could be used by residents, if they so wish, to plant a tree in the memory of their loved ones. I know some have already started doing this. Now to the future. I hope we move forward and repair some of the damage that the COVID has done. Excuse me. These are many and diverse. Some things we can fix as a council, some things we can help others to help themselves. Mitigating climate change. We have a motion on this subject later. I will have more to say on this subject as well. One thing that this council has done for what will be a very long haul is put aside a considerable amount of money for this very important purpose, and we as individual members have extra money to help groups within our wards on many projects that are coming forward. I've kept this deliberately short today because of the way we're meeting, but I will have things to say as we come out of COVID in the future. Finally, for those parish councils and town councils who wish to see me, I will try and see as many of them as is traditional as possible through my year of tenure. Okay? Right. Right, the next thing to do is vote. Yes, the vote of thanks to the retiring chairman. Councillor Brown.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Greatly appreciated, and congratulations on being elected as Chairman of this Council. If I may, I'd like to start off simply by saying how nice it is to see everybody in person, both councillors and officers, and congratulate both Councillor Rowe and indeed all the officers for arranging this location for us to meet within the required government guidelines. I've seen many posts from councillors around the country with photos of council AGMs being held in sports halls, which have given me horrible flashbacks to doing school exams, which have been followed by an inevitable panic attack. I'm very pleased to say that this meeting location has not brought back such horrible and vivid memories, and so on. Rose, we all understand and appreciate that the last 15 months were certainly, shall we say, not what you were expecting when you were elected as chairman. Nonetheless, pre-COVID, yourself and indeed your consort, Tony, and your husband, attended no fewer than 25 civic occasions representing this council to your full ability. Now, clearly, during the times of COVID, civic events had to be put on the back burner. Nonetheless, this council has benefited from your wisdom and experience, and indeed, I believe it's your 27 years of service to both your residents and indeed this council as ward member for East Dart, and your previous tenures as chairman of Southampton District Council. The circumstances have certainly not been easy. We've all had to deal with new challenges over the past 15 months. And it can be difficult at times to chair a full council meeting and ensure 31 members are kept in order, let alone when you're doing it on your own at home over the internet. It's much more difficult to do things like read people's body language. Rose has overseen some council meetings which, due to the sheer amount of business we've had to get through, have lasted up to 6 hours over the past year, whilst we've all been meeting remotely. You have overseen these meetings with patience, warmth, and indeed good humour, and a firm and reassuring hand on the tiller. Finally, whilst clearly they are unable to speak at this meeting, I know that Darryl and his Democratic Services team want to thank you for the tireless preparation you've put in ahead of each and every meeting. This has not gone unnoticed or indeed unappreciated. So, Councillor Rowe, I know I can speak for the Conservative group, but I hope that I can speak for the entire Council when I propose a vote of thanks in you and indeed to your husband Tony as retiring chairman and consort. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Pearce, I believe you want to say something.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Brown. I'd just like to add a few words to Councillor Rowe, because she has been a really tremendous chairman and a huge support to me when I wasn't expecting to become leader, and she's been very loyal and very helpful, and I would really like to thank her for it. When she became chairman, I thought, oh, great, we're going to be in for a really good time, because I know Rose is really sociable and we'll have lots of nice things going on. So we did have a very good civic service, which was very nice, followed by an excellent luncheon. And then we all went to Hunt's Cider and had a really nice evening there. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a really, really good time. And then it all happened. So thank you for trying, Rose. But you've done really well since, and particularly in council meetings, my goodness me, you've worked hard on them, and it's been very lonely for you there, sitting at home without much help. So I really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Councillor or Leader. Anybody else want to say anything? No. Okay. Rose, would you like to respond to those words, please?
Thank you. Can you all hear me? Yes, very good. Well, in response to those comments, both from Councillor Brown and indeed from our leader, Councillor Pearce, I wish to thank you all very much. Prior to when I first became a councillor, and I met up with the then leader of the council, and I said, how much time will it take up? And I was told, oh, only one afternoon a fortnight, dear. You know, it won't take up too much of your time. So I thought, well, I can fit that in with whatever else I do, and that'll be great. But once I was elected to the council, I soon found out that it was more like 2 afternoons a week. And as we all know now, in those days, we had our correspondence came through the post, and we usually had a stack of about a foot high on a Saturday. But we've moved on from those times. And I know that when emails first came in, probably 15 years ago, and we got into IT, and I thought, how am I going to cope with all this? but I was told by a councillor at that point in time, if I can do it, Rose, so can you. And I thought, yes, I knew that person very well. And I thought, well, if he can do it, I'll have to do it too. So I got myself motivated, and here we are. We've had virtual council meetings. We've sat there and we've concentrated for hours on end, and that computer that sat in the corner, it seems to be our workstation for best part of most days of the week for the last 15 months. The last 15 months have been difficult for all of us, for our staff, for various reasons, and we, the members, have become the first point of call by the public for whatever reason. If they think of something they want an answer, they'll get onto their ward member. I know that's what we're there for, but it has been hard slog. We welcomed a new chief exec this year, Andy Bates. Andy is the 7th chief executive to serve this council since I've been a member. I'm not quite sure what that tells us. It tells me that I get through our chief execs pretty fast, or else I've been here for a bit too long. So we'll see who manages to outserve who in the years that come. I would particularly like to thank Lisa and the finance department. All the staff have worked under continuous pressure, dealing with all the various grant fundings that seem to be continually on the change. We get end of one grant and then we get the next one, and it's quite difficult to understand, but they have worked tirelessly to make all these grants available to the business community whilst doing their normal day job. I think that's very important that we thank them. I have done my best to uphold the office to which I was elected on the 16th of May 2019, not knowing at that time what lay ahead for all of us. And until March 2020, we had our normal chairman's year. You've already heard some of the things that we did, and I think there's an agenda item a bit later on if I wish to tell you any more, but we'll see what happens then. And in March last year, we entered the lockdown, and we had the COVID restrictions, and today is the first time that we've all been able to meet face to face under one roof, albeit even now under difficult circumstances. It's all a bit strange. We're all in our little, in our little cubicles, but at least it's good to see one another. And we must take this coming out of lockdown, if we're able to do so, step by step, and respect one another, to see, as we will have different views on how we must move on. We must respect each other in that respect. We've had sadness too. Sadly, Councillor Pennington and Councillor Foss both lost their wives during the year, late last year. We have felt the loss of Councillor David May, which was very sad. David was a larger-than-life character and will be remembered by all of us with affection for a long time. I would like to thank my Vice Chairman, Councillor Foss, for his support and friendship during what has been a difficult time for him, and also to Darrell and Anna for the assistance they have given me and to you, and we wish Anna well and hope that she makes a good recovery. Thanks must also go to Steve Gardner. I hope he's still at the back there, because Steve has been a strength to a lot of us with our RT problems, particularly when we either cannot connect or we drop out of our virtual meetings. And it's help. What am I going to miss? I might not be there for the vote. I've got to get back in. And the other person I'd like to thank, although he's not here, is thanks to my husband, Tony. He's very long-suffering. He doesn't get cross very often. And when he does, you know it's time to shut up. But he's always been there and been a support to me. And lastly, but not least, to you, the members, for your friendship and support during the last 2 years. We have all worked together to keep this show on the road, and as we emerge from lockdown, we must be ever mindful of making our corner of Devon a better place in which to live, work, and to relax, and to welcome visitors to our beautiful area. We don't know what lies ahead of us for the coming year, and if we will get back to some kind of normality to which to live and work. I wish you, all the members and staff, well for the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Right, we'll now move on to the nominations for Vice Chairman. Have I any nominations, please?
Chairman, I would like to nominate Councillor Lance Austin as Vice Chairman, please.
I will second that proposal.
That's 23 in favour. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Council. I, Lance Austin, have been elected to the office of Vice Chairman of South Hams District Council, declare that I take the office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability.
Right, welcome, Lance. Okay, we'll now move on. Anybody got declarations of interest, please? No. No. Okay. Right, we'll move on to item 7, minutes of the meeting on the 23rd of March, of the council meeting on the 25th of March, beg your pardon, 2021. Everybody happy with those minutes and in favour of them?
So moved.
No, you want a show of hands, Mr. White?
Yes, please. Thank you, Chair.
Right. Can I have a show of hands, please?
And that's clearly carried. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, we now move on to item 8, a statement from Councillor Pearce, our leader. Councillor Pearce?
Thank you, Chairman. If a day in politics is a long time, 2 years are an eon. When I gave my acceptance speech on becoming leader in May 2019, who would have imagined everything which has happened since? There was the SLT reorganisation in the summer of 2019, followed by the ELT reorganisation, completed at the end of the year. But at the meeting when Sophie Hosking revealed the results to Councillor Neil Jory, leader of West Devon, and myself, she also informed us that she was leaving. So then by the end of January 2020, she left and Steve Molyneux took over the reins in a temporary capacity. Who would then have guessed the enormity of what was about to happen? At this point, I must reiterate how truly grateful we are to Steve for everything he did during the long months he was on his own at the top, through the real emergency, and I'm sure you'd all join me in that. He held the whole of the council together magnificently. The officers, fortunately used to and equipped for remote working, just knuckled down at home and got on with a really tremendous delivery of business, which soon very much became business as usual. Meanwhile, we were advertising for a new chief executive, and we eventually, in late-ish mid-March, had one day of interviews at Follerton House when we met Andy Bates, and then a second one at Kilworthy Park for the rest of the candidates. On my way home, I stopped in Tavistock to make my very last pre-lockdown in-shop purchase. 2 bottles of Lidl's excellent gin. I shall never either forget or regret that. There was no annual council last May because it was excused by the Coronavirus Act. And in June, Andy Bates joined us as our new chief executive, and things gradually eased up for the summer, when we all got used to the outdoor cafe culture, then got worse in the autumn, and then we went back into a series of tiers and lockdowns, and the rest is history as we gradually emerge. Sadly, in December, we lost David May. He was a competent and hard-working, loyal, funny and kind member of my executive. We still miss him. he did so much good work in the 9 months that he was on the executive, well, less than 9 months actually, barely 7. And we all remarked that selling second-hand cars must be an infinitely transferable skill, because whatever you asked him to do, he did it and got it done well. There's also been a tremendous amount of good work achieved in all this time by the council. A total of over £71.7 million in grants has been paid out to local businesses. And the team of officers who've done it is really indefatigable. And a huge thank you to them for helping keep so many businesses in the district afloat. Team Devon was born and won't go away. Whilst we're not looking towards any unitary system, there are economies to be made by all the Devon authorities working together whenever they can. 2 years ago, I said that my priority as leader would be to focus on the well-being and prosperity of residents in the district, and whilst welcoming visitors, we had a duty to conserve the natural and historic built environment, particularly in the protected areas. I added that I'd already asked officers to prepare a plan for carbon footprint savings at the council, and that we would fully cooperate with the Devon climate change plans. I noticed the importance of not only rolling out the JLP to provide housing and employment space, but also of looking for solutions to the affordability problems for local people in accessing housing in the district. As we stand at the gateway of a new corporate strategy, yet to find itself a more catchy name, I have to say, I reassure you that my objectives as leader of this council have not changed one bit. We already have a tremendously broad basis for this strategy agreed by all members. We have the Climate Change and Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan, we have the Recovery Plan and Action Plan, and we have the Housing Strategy and its Action Plan, which will be published imminently. A good deal of money has already been agreed to bring forward the best value and achievable actions in these plans. The Climate Change Community Forum, already an exemplar being promoted by the LGA, is ready to sign off the method of applications for community match-funded projects. There are several capital projects underway, EV charging points coming, and a large number of Section 106 projects to realise. The JLP is working well, and we still have a secure 5-year land supply. The SPD has been adopted, and 5 more neighbourhood plans are to be made today, and we have a free port in the district shared with Plymouth. What remains to be done is to turn all this around into an outward-facing public document for consultation, make any subsequent changes, and then adopt it as our new corporate strategy for the next 2 or 3 years. Events may have held us up, but the ambition is not dimmed. We've all learned from events, but also we've been humbled by the tremendous resilience and all the voluntary support in the district during the pandemic. We intend to deliver with renewed vigour over the next 2 years to show that this is an administration which can achieve improvement and opportunity for the lives of our residents. I would like to thank Andy Bates for all he has done so ably, in mostly strange remote circumstances, to get so much moving since he arrived, and I hope that he has more opportunity to get to know all of you better in person over the coming year. I'm very pleased to be able to congratulate Councillor Louise Jones on her recent election to the Conservative group on the council, and also to announce that Councillor Tom Holway will be joining the executive with immediate effect to take on the Climate Change and Biodiversity programme. Other executive members, Councillors Bastone, Hopwood, Hawkins and Baldry, will remain, and I'd like to thank them for all the hard work they've put in over the last 2 years already. They will have some slightly adjusted portfolios to fit in with the expected demands of the new corporate strategy. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Right, we'll now move on. No, I'm afraid there's no questions on this one. No, not at this moment. No, we can't. Item 9, representation of political groups. The head of paid service has been informed of the formation of 4 political groups in the council, these being the Conservative group with its leader being Councillor Pearce, the Liberal Democratic group with its leader being Councillor Brazil, an Independent group with its leader being Councillor Long, and a Green Party group with its leader being Councillor Hodgson. As a consequence, a table is included in the supplementary papers and makes recommendations about the allocation of seats to bodies of the Council for the 2021-22 municipal year. Is a member now willing to move the recommendations regarding the allocation of seats, but not the appointments, as set out in the paper?
Chairman, I so move.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
Yes, I second, Chairman.
Okay. Right. Do members wish to raise any issues on this? Councillor Smurden?
Just a point of clarification, and I'm sure there's a logical explanation, and my maths was never my strong subject, but on page 21 at the top, when it says political composition of the council, if you add up all those seats on the far right hand where it says 23, 14, 4 and 3, I think that comes to 44. Whereas we've only got 31 councillors.
These are, sorry, Chairman, through you, the 44 is the total number of seats which are subject to political balance. So that's the combined of those. In the table, you've got the ONS Committee, Development Management Committee, Audit Committee, and Licensing Committee. Those 4 committees are subject to political balance rules, and the total number of those seats add up to 44.
Any other issues? Right, we'll move on to item 10, appointment of members to bodies of the Council. Members, your attention is drawn to the list showing the nominations for membership of the various Council bodies put forward by the leaders of the political groups. Is someone now prepared to move the nominations as indicated on the published lists?
Chairman, I so move.
Seconding, Chairman.
Right, my intention to vote on these en bloc. Fine, can I have a show of hands in favour of that, please?
That is 26 in favour. Thank you, Chair.
Anyone against?
No one against, Chair.
Any abstentions?
1 abstention, Chair, being yourself.
Yeah, I thought, sorry. I can do several things, but I'm not female, so multitasking is not my greatest thing. Anyway, right, on item 12, are we not? Yes, hang on a minute.
11, Chair.
11, beg your pardon, ahead of myself. The election of chairman and vice chairman of the bodies of the council. Members, we will now move on to the list of nominations received from the leaders of the political groups for the positions of chairman and vice chairman. Would someone please move acceptance of these nominees on the list as published?
Chairman, I so move.
Seconding, Chairman.
Thank you. Appointment of Salcombe Harbour Board Co-opted
Sorry,
members.
Chair, before we move on, can we have a vote on those,
Oh,
please?
beg your pardon. All in favour? Sorry. I'll get the hang of it in a minute. Thank you.
26.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I
That
beg
is
your
now
pardon.
unanimous. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Birch, for that. Perhaps you've been sat beside me, giving me a nudge occasionally. Okay. Right. Right, on to item 12, appointment of Salcombe Harbour Board Co-opted members. Can I ask the leader to introduce the report on this, please?
Thank you. I will, Leader. And when I've finished, it may be opportune, Councillor Brazil may, as chairman of the board, may want to say a few words too. Recently, there were some vacancies on the external members of the Harbour Board, and so the usual procedure was carried out where people were invited to apply, And then there were interviews, because there are interviews for the Harbour Board for competency reasons, which is explained in the report. And there was a really exceptionally strong field this time. And 3 people turned up who really were outstanding and all deserved to be on the board, but there were only 2 spaces. Now, as we're anticipating that there will be somebody stepping down next year because they've done, I think, slightly more than the time they should have done, but that person's been a very helpful and competent member of the board too. What this report seeks to do is to suspend the procedure rule that would otherwise require a recruitment process next year to enable one of those people who applied this year to be carried over to next year, so that they won't need an appointment board next year, but can just co-opt him on next year. So I think this is a very good news story, and I do recommend everybody to vote for this, but maybe Councillor Brazil would like to say a few words now before we take.
Councillor Brazil?
Yeah, no, I've got nothing to add other than I fully concur with Judy.
Then I'll move the recommendations then, Chairman.
I'll second those if you want, Chairman.
Sorry, I'll get the hang of it in a minute. So we've no debate on this at all? Just a vote in favour? Yes?
Thank you, Chair. That is therefore 27 and unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. Yep. Item 13, draft calendar of meetings for 2021/22. Councillor Pearce, would you like to introduce this report, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm sure that this must be one of the favourite jobs of Democratic Services for the year, having to work out the calendar of meetings. It's extremely difficult, and trying to juggle 2 councils makes it even more difficult. So I'd like to thank them all for doing this amazing task, because it's a bit like, when the butterfly flaps its wings on one side of the world, there's a catastrophe on the other, because if you move one bit, everything else has to move as well. But anyway, we've got a programme of meetings. It has been looked through to try and spot any errors or difficulties, and I think it's all right. So if there aren't any questions, I will move the recommendation. Oh, there are some questions.
There's a typo at
Correct. Thank you, Chair.
Well spotted. Any other questions? Councillor Abbott?
That is also correct. Thanks, Councillor Abbott.
Councillor Hodgson?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to ask if there'd been any looking across at the proposed list of meetings that are happening at Devon County Council, because that can affect dual-hatted councillors, and it just makes it a bit difficult to try and do double representation. Has that been considered or not? Is it simply a question?
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Yes, I've spoken with Darrell, and I understand that has been taken consideration of. Obviously, if there are any issues in future, we can have a look at it. But we think we've done that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Mackay, can I see you've got your hand up? Thank you.
The SLT drop-in sessions, I mean, this was something that was mooted, and I'm glad to see it here, but I didn't realise it was, the format was going to be a Q&A session, which I thought was going to be for councillors in general to sit and be able to quiz the SLT team on what they're doing and where they're going with things. The format appears to be a drop-in session, is that right? And it's going to happen every, 3 months? Is that a rolling thing?
Sorry. Thank you, Councillor McKay. We've placed them in the way we have. We're quite happy to adapt to those as we go. So if members want a different format at a different time, we're happy to adjust to that. So I think we're quite flexible, and we want to make sure that SLT are available on that informal basis in order that we can respond to members' questions. So hopefully that helps.
Thanks. I just wanted a bit of clarification. Thanks.
Any more questions? In that case, Councillor Pearce, did you propose?
I will move the recommendation.
Can I have a second?
Secondly, Chairman.
That is unanimous. Thank you, Chair, for the calendar. Thank you.
Item 14, you'll have all received an email from our Chief Executive about postponing this because of the length. Give us a bit more time. Would you like to say a few words?
I'm happy to. Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we had endeavoured to. We've endeavoured throughout the process of developing thinking on the political decision-making process to engage all members in that conversation. We've been pretty successful up until now. I'm afraid we failed somewhat on this last leg due to the impact of quite a little work around the elections. And I'm conscious that members only got the report 2 days ago. It is a weighty tome, and I think it's very important that all members have the chance to consider it fully. Clearly, it is an important document for the council, and we'll be wanting to reassure members about any queries they have. So we're hoping to have further conversations with members in their political group meetings. The suggestion is we also take the report to Audit Committee in order that when it comes back for formal consideration at council, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to achieve a wide consensus in support of those changes. Thank you, Chairman.
Can I just thank both the leader and the chief executive for agreeing to this item being deferred. I think it is a positive way forward, and I certainly support this item being deferred to the next meeting of the full council. And once again, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Birch. Right, item 15, appointments of governance boards and stroke panels. A paper has been circulated showing the proposed list of government boards panels to which the council is being asked to appoint. Members are firstly asked to agree to the principles of these government boards panels being established as per list. We will then need separate votes on the proposed size of these boards panels and the appointments. There is therefore a proposer. Is there a proposer for the groups to be established as indicated on the list?
Chairman, I'm happy to make that proposal.
Seconded.
Is there a proposer that the size of these groups is as proposed on the published papers?
Chairman, I'm happy to propose that.
Seconder?
Seconded.
Thank you.
Chair, sorry, before we move on to the actual appointments themselves, can we take a vote on those two aspects in terms of the list and the size of those before we move on?
Oh, sorry, yes. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. So therefore, members, please indicate if you're in favour of the establishment of the list and the size of those, the sort of membership size of those lists, please. is therefore unanimous for those. Thank you, Joe.
Sorry, yeah, Councillor Abbott.
May I ask a question, or it's more of a comment, I suppose, on this topic? Is that all right?
Oh, I don't see why not.
These seem to me to be really important groups, and yet I know nothing about them on a day-to-day basis. It would be really nice to know what these groups have done for the District Council over the past year, last 2 years maybe, and what is our contribution been to the groups as well. You might have heard the sort of approach from me on another matter, and you will again. But it's a shame that that we are not better informed of the process and of the outcomes of these activities.
I hear
Chairman,
what you say.
Chairman, can I speak?
Councillor Baston, yes.
I'm on two of these bodies, which is the Devon Building Control Partnership and the joint SHWD Plymouth Local Plan Partnership Board, and both of these publish minutes which can be referred to. They are made, the minutes of the meetings are made public, and it's no difficulty in just going online and calling them up. So, Councillor Abbott, you could have, if you were in any doubt, you could certainly have asked me any time on those two subjects, and I've been willing to provide the information. I think perhaps you've been failing as a councillor in not following it through.
I don't think that was probably the answer you were looking for, but anyway. Right, thank you. Councillor Holloway, sorry. I can hardly see you over there.
Chairman, in defence of my colleague from Ivy Bridge, it's very difficult sometimes to know where something is if you didn't know it existed. So, with due respect to everybody, if it's not already put in the bulletin and I've missed it, can these things be put in the bulletin to make sure that we all see them? That's all I'm asking. I'm not accusing, I'm not falling out, but I can miss things as well, very easily.
Councillor Rowe.
Chairman, are we all talking about the same agenda item? Is Councillor Abbott on agenda item 15? Because he must know about the council tax setting panel, and there is another matter there, rate relief panel and SAPS in-line steering group. We all know all about that because that's a pretty regular occurrence. Or are you on the next item?
Not yet, I'm not.
Got your answer to your question.
So thank you, Chairman. So, whilst recognising it is possible to identify those minutes, I think we can make it easy for members collectively by taking up the suggestion Councillor Holloway's made, and as appropriate, we'll include them in the members' bulletin. I hope that's helpful for all concerned.
Leader.
Actually, I think that some of those boards, it would not be appropriate, to be quite honest, to publish the minutes in the members' bulletin. Things like the rate relief panels. It's a technical thing. There are certain instances where rates can be relieved, and those businesses make an application to the council, I think more or less in confidence, because sometimes the details are quite confidential, and they are signed off by 2 or 3 senior members just as a safeguard so that officers aren't doing it on their own. And that the rate relief panel probably meets once every 2 or 3 months, and we have a list, and sometimes recently we've been signing them off even without having a meeting because the details have been sent to us. But I don't think it would be appropriate for that to be put down and made public, because that's not the nature of it. This is really more of a control for the officers, so that they know that members have signed it off and we know what they're up to, and that's really what that's about.
Councillor Baston?
Yeah, just like to say another thing to Councillor Abbott. If he's not happy with the information he's been receiving in respect of Slapton Line Steering Group from his group leader, I'm quite willing to stand on that with Councillor Foss and keep him fully informed.
Right.
Well, if Hillary wants to do that, that's absolutely fine by me. I mean, I represent it on the county council anyway, so, you know, more than welcome for him to come along and have his input.
Chairman, I'd like to take that up if I could then, thank you.
I think that would be a very good idea, considering that your ward is on the end of the certain bit of road that we're talking about.
That road has got, well, I don't need to go into debate on it really, but that road is so important economically, and I'm disappointed with the way the Slapton Line Partnership has sort of, and county, have disowned that road in some ways. But I don't want to get into an argument about it now. I'm quite willing to save it for the partnership meeting.
Right, okay. So can can we add Councillor Baston's name to the list, Councillor?
Chair, if it helps, before we vote, we'll be voting for the list as published,
Yeah.
subject to Councillor Bastone replacing Councillor Brazil and little f being the Slapton Line Steering Group.
Okay. So can I now have a proposer and seconder of those groups, please? Acceptance of those groups.
Chairman, I'll propose those groups.
Glad to second.
That is unanimous for the updated list. Thank you, Chair.
Right. Can I now have a proposer to appoint en bloc the members of the board's panels as circulated?
Sorry, Chair, before you do, there's a covering report with some standalone recommendations, and there is, one of the outside bodies is oversubscribed in that there are 3 nominations for 2 places.
Right, so we need a ballot, Mr. White, yes?
For that one, please, yes. So members, for clarity, on each desk there should be a ballot paper which is asking that all members can vote up for 2 individuals for the Joint Advisory Committee for the Dartmoor National Park Authority on local housing needs.
Sorry, Councillor Birch?
We're on outside bodies, are we? Yes. I want to have an amendment to the recommendation, so I'm not certain as to when you're going to take that. Are you going to take that before the vote or after the vote?
Yeah, we can take that later.
Later. Okay. You take it later. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Chairman, may I just speak about that particular ballot? Yeah, just to say that I mean, we've always had consensus on this particular outside body, and I've been on it with a number of colleagues. What I would say is that both of the councillors standing against me represent Ivybridge, which is a town. They're very similar in that sense. I represent a very rural area, which in a way mirrors much of what Dartmoor is already. I would hope that that the members of this council feel that there is a spread of representation on that council, and so I would ask that at least one of the votes they might support me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brazil. Councillor Pearce.
Thank you. Yes, we actually We made this proposal on purpose. Because Ivybridge may be a town, but Ivybridge is also right on the edge of the national park, and in fact it's just about as close to the national park as any ward can be, unless it's in the national park. And that's the reason for this, not otherwise, because actually Councillor Brazil lives right the other end of the district.
Chair, if I could just respond to that. I mean, what I'm saying is that the housing issues are very similar on Dartmoor as they are in my area, which is all contained within the AONB. So this isn't just about the fact that you're close to it. I mean, using that logic, obviously, my colleague Councillor Thomas should be on there. Most of his, no, that's his county patch. But I'm saying Councillor Smurden or Councillor Pannell should be on it, because half of their ward is actually in the park, not bordering, it's actually in the park. So, yeah, I mean, I just leave it to members to make that decision. But, like I said, I think that diversity and ideas and thoughts and issues which are across the South Hams rather than just concentrated in one area.
I hope you know, Councillor Brazil, I've given you a chance to say your piece.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations on your nomination and position.
Right. So, Chair, we're on the ballot, and just for absolute clarity, members can vote for up to 2 of the 3 nominees. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Through you, the results are in. Councillor Jones got 19 votes, Councillor Austin 15, with Councillor Brazil 12. Therefore, the two places will be taken by Councillors Jones and Austin. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. White. Right. I'll now call upon Councillor Pearce to recommend the proposal.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we've done the voting, but there is the matter of how the outside bodies are to report back. This is clearly set out in section 3 of the report, and I see that there is a jolly little form now proposed at Appendix 2 for the purposes of reporting back. I do think that this should be taken in proportion, because there are some meetings which are attended when really it isn't worth reporting anything back, and it should be on an as and when basis. And I really think that it's up to the member attending to judge, first of all, whether there's anything that affects any member in their ward, and they need to be told. That's really the first important thing. And if there's anything affecting the council in general, or anything of general interest, then that should be reported back. But to give you an example, I attended 2 District Council Networks meetings yesterday online, where the business conducted was absolutely nothing to do with this council at all. It was all as a result of elections in other councils where we had to be deciding on the political majority at the local government association and who would be standing in various posts. Now, you all get the LGA newsletter or magazine or whatever you'd like to call it every fortnight or whenever 3 weeks or however often it comes out. And all that is in there. So I don't see any point in reporting that to you. I will report to you, and I do report to you when I think there are things that are of interest or importance to you. But to ask me in particular and other members to write reports for every single meeting I went to would mean that I probably wouldn't have time to go to the other meetings. So I think we do need to keep this in proportion. And I think that the suggestions made in the paper are proportionate and sensible.
Okay. Councillor Palo.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to support the leader. I think she's right. This is the whole point about being pointed at minutes. That is not an adequate reporting back system. As members, representatives of our local community, Councillor Smurd and I go to many parish council meetings. We draw up a monthly, sometimes weekly, report back of what the council is doing. We don't say to our parish councils, please refer to the minutes if you want to know what Southampton is doing. We highlight with bullet points the key things of significance to them. And we cheer the day when there isn't much to report back, because we can actually have a slightly easier time at a parish council meeting. And I think that's the whole purpose, is that we should be bullet pointing things of real significance, not asking members to wade through endless minutes or endless reports. I think some of Councillor Pearce's reporting back is a model of how it should be done. And I think it is right that if we appoint people to outside bodies, that they give us some indication of the key points that are of relevance to us as members of the South Hams.
Thank you. Councillor Birch.
I think procedurally the recommendation on the paper should be put, and then I'd like to, once it's put, I'd like to put an amendment, unless, I mean, we have not had the recommendation moved yet. I'd like to propose an amendment to it, unless, of course, Councillor Pearce is prepared to accept my proposed amendment. I did give her notice of the proposed amendment, and unfortunately, we don't have the benefit of Teams here so that you can see what the amendment is. Perhaps it might be helpful if I was to just propose, give members, has that been distributed?
Can I move the recommendations first, please?
Second, you, Chairman.
Thank you. You may.
Distribute now, Chair.
Mr. Chairman. Shall I proceed?
Have everybody got? Yes, Councillor Birch.
Thank you. There are really two simple amendments to the recommendation. The first proposed amendment is where there is an addition of the welcome and accept the recommendations arising out of the task and finish report as set out in section 3 of the report to the presented to the full council. I think the least this council can do is recognise the hard work and effort that was put in by the task and finish group led by Councillor Spencer in producing their report in double quick time. They were only given I think it was about 4 weeks to come up with the report. The report was prepared after consultation with officers and other members, and just to make it clear, the group consisted of 3 Conservative members and 3 members from the opposition. And the report that came before the task and finish group report that came before the overview and scrutiny panel on the 1st of April was not only warmly welcomed, but it was accepted, if my memory serves me correctly, by all members of overview and scrutiny. So I think the least this meeting can do is recognise the work and effort that went into producing that report, and in doing so include it within the recommendation, to welcome it and also to accept the recommendations arising out of it. So that's, I think, is a matter of politeness as far as I'm concerned. So the second amendment within the recommendation in respect to the matter of the reporting feedback template. It's a very simple document. It's not complicated. It's not asking for a 16-page report. It's a very simple document, and I would suggest that it's the least that can happen is that a member attending an outside body would complete that form, and the time period I've stated is 28 days. And so, and you may have noticed that within item 3 of the report, it was agreed that reports coming from outside bodies should be submitted by members, and that they should then be reported to all members through the members' bulletin. And so all that is being added to the recommendation is asking for members to submit their reports in the required format, which is very brief, and that they do that within 28 days. And that goes along with what was the recommendation coming out of the task and finish group. So I would commend both these amendments to the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Birch. I believe Councillor Abbott.
Yes, I second it. May I speak as well now or later?
That is your choice.
So I'd just like to give my thanks to the members of the task and finish group under the chairmanship of Councillor Barry Spencer, and it was running such a cooperative and straightforward inquiry. I am pleased to second the amendment, which captures the essence of the task and finish group's findings. This amendment will permit us to have a much better understanding of the outside bodies and our fellow councillors' efforts, with a reporting system which is short, focused and immediate.
Thank you. Right, so we have a seconder for this amendment. Have we anybody who wants to speak on it, please? Councillor Hopwood.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to move that we go on to the next item of business. Seconder.
Seconded. Seconded.
We've just said that the amendment's proposed and seconded. Councillor Hopwood has asked to move to the next business motion. So arguably the businesses we're discussing now is that we haven't got a standalone recommendation, if you like. We're debating an amendment to the initial motion, so
Chair, I think we should just vote on the amendment. I mean, fair enough if you want.
Yep.
If we got on the amendment, Chair, the proposer of the original motion, Councillor Pearce, would have the right to conclude the debate on that before we go to the vote on the amendment. So Councillor Pearce does have the opportunity.
Chairman, I think the correct procedural rule is that the question now be put, and that will then get you to vote on the amendment.
So therefore, members, we're debating or voting, sorry, on the amendment. That is 11 votes in favour of the amendment. Thank you, Chair.
Those against?
That's 15 against the amendment. Thank you, Chair.
Any abstentions?
No abstentions. Thank you, Chair. The amendment is therefore lost.
So now we go back to the main
That's correct. We revert now to substantive motion.
substantive motion. Yes, Councillor Hopwood.
Thank you, Chairman. Could I please propose that Council move on to the next item of business? Do I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Therefore, members, we are therefore voting on the recommendation as per page 109 of the agenda papers.
Understand that we're voting for the main. Okay, those in favour?
That's 16 in favour of the recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Those against?
There are no votes against the recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
No abstentions?
And that is 11 abstentions. Thank you, Chair.
Right. Move on to right, we'll move on to item 19. Chairman's announcements. Councillor Rowe, do you want to say anything about the past, or have you said it all?
Well, thank you, Chairman. No, I don't really have anything further to add, apart from you were saying perhaps what I did in the first year of my chairmanship.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've jumped the gun.
I'm sorry, right. Gone too many, one too fast, have we?
Go back again. Right, item 17, we have no urgent business. Item 18, on to exempt information.
Point of order, Chairman. I would suggest that there is urgent business insofar as the waste issue, and the fact that it's not being discussed, I think, is bringing this council.
No, I'm sorry, we're moving on. You've all had an email on that subject. We have a debate on urgent business already in place. Thank you. Exempt information, please. Who's taken on that one? No exempt information. Chairman's announcements, please.
Okay, thank you. I'll go back to the beginning again. Yes, well, we did mention, I think, Councillor Brown, when he was proposing vote of thanks to myself, mentioned that I had attended 25 civic events in the first year of my chairmanship, along with my husband, and we went to various events within South Hams and Torbay, and we went to Exeter, we went to the cathedral, to the Young Farmers Harvest Festival service, which is always a lovely service to attend, and then we went down to Dartmouth for the regatta. The regatta's at Dartmouth, unfortunately, they couldn't have it last year, and they're hoping that it will go ahead this year, but it will be on a reduced scale. That's one of the most important events in... No? It's on full scale, right? I'm told it's on full scale by the president, I believe, or chairman, or one of the organisers, whatever. So yes, and One of the events I also attended was at the Civic Hall, which was Councillor Hodgson when she was Mayor of Totnes. She had her civic event at the Civic Hall in Totnes. That was in February, and that was probably the last full civic event that I attended. And we had a really jolly evening that evening with lots of dancing and enjoyment, food, etc., provided locally, which is always good. We have to promote local food. And then we fell into lockdown, and actually the only other events that I've attended in the past 12 months have been for Remembrance Day, when I attended 2 events there, and the last time I officially wore my council chairman's chain was at Remembrance Day service in Totnes. And when we couldn't go into the church, we had to have it outside, but luckily the weather was favourable. And then apart from that, when I did the piece that went out when the Duke of Edinburgh sadly passed away, but I've had a lovely time being chairman of the council. It's been hard work the past 13, 14 months, keeping you all in order during meetings, virtual meetings when we haven't had eye contact, but we're here today, and I thank you all for your support, and I look forward to being able to sit in the back row and fall asleep if I want to. Thank you. Perhaps I shouldn't have said that, but yes.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. We now move on to item 2021, and it's been suggested that the leader introduce the reports on all of them in general, and then we will have to vote on them individually. That's correct, Mr. White? Right.
That's correct, thank you, Chair.
So, Leader, would you, Councillor Pearce, like to introduce
I will. Thank you.
neighbourhood plans, please?
Thank you. It always gives me great pleasure to move that we make a neighbourhood plan in this council, because each one represents a tremendous amount of community effort, a tremendous amount of community work, and really the will of the parish or the designated area in what they want to see in their parish. And it's really important, and it's such a lot of work and effort for people who often have not done anything of this sort before. There are a few people now who help them write them up and get the policies right, but it is a tremendous community effort. And so it's with great pleasure that there are 5 plans for Abberton Gifford, Kingston, Kingswear, South Hewish and Street. It's unfortunate for some of them have only just sort of got ready to be made now, but some of them have been hanging around waiting for their referendum to happen. And I think that's particularly unfortunate for them, particularly when there have been applications in their ward where it's been impossible to give full weight to the plan because of the lack of referendum. And I really feel for them. So I'm really pleased today that we are able, we will be able in a moment to make these 5 plans. You'll see in each report there is a history of how each plan has come about, and the trials and tribulations of each is listed there. But this is a great moment for them, and if any of you represent those parishes, please go back to them and say to them that when they respond, when the parish council responds to a planning application, it is really important that they point out the policies in their plan that they want mentioned in the reports and why. Because there are now so many neighbourhood plans, that often it's quite difficult for officers to fill it out, the right policies, and make appropriate remarks. So if the parishes help the officers on their way, it does really help to get your plan noticed and mentioned in officer reports. Thank you, Chairman. Unless there are any questions.
Councillor Hawkins, no?
Oh, well, if there are, or a comment before.
I thought what we do is just quickly, briefly ask each one when we go through each one and ask just if there's any questions on each one. But
okay.
I doubt there will be, but just procedural.
I'm happy to move the recommendation then for the Abberton Gifford neighbourhood development plan. And I'm sorry that Councillor Kemp isn't here.
Sorry, Councillor Panham.
Yes, the leader did ask a question. I do have a question, which is that I understand there is a threat that sadly, neighbourhood plans may be undermined by the planning reforms the government intends to bring in. I wondered if the leader had any comments about what knowledge she has of how neighbourhood plans will be protected under the proposed legislation.
Like you, Councillor Pannell, I don't have a crystal ball, so until it happens, I'll keep my powder dry. But I can tell you that I think there is a large movement on the Conservative benches. You don't have many Lib Dem MPs at the moment, do you, to push back on it? But there will be a big pushback movement from Conservative MPs should that happen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? So, Councillor Pearce, you're going to move the adoption of Avon Gifford neighbourhood plan?
I so move. Yes, thank you.
Seconded, Chairman.
Sorry, go to the vote. All in favour?
That's unanimous for adoption of the Afton Gifford neighbourhood plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. White. I hope that would be the case. Leader, can you move the adoption of the Kingston neighbourhood plan, please?
Indeed. So I move. It's the making of the Kingston neighbourhood.
Yep.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor. All those in favour? If you have any questions en route, just shout, please.
That is also unanimous for that recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. White. Councillor Pearce, can you move the making of Kingswear neighbourhood plan, please?
I move that Council approves the making of the Kingswear Neighbourhood Development Plan. I think there may be a question or a comment on this one.
Seconded.
Well, I was going to say I'd second it, but obviously Councillor Bastone has beaten me to it. I would just like to thank Eileen Parks, who was a parish councillor with myself on Kingswear Parish Council for a number of years, and her team for all the hard work and effort, and a huge amount of, as the leader has said, we all know how hard these neighbourhood plans are to actually put together, and Eileen and her team have done a huge amount of work. It went to referendum just a couple of weeks ago in Kingswear on the May election date, and was resoundingly supported by our residents. So I'd just like to thank her and her team very much for all the hard work and effort they've put in. Thank you.
As Councillor Baston has seconded this, can I have a show of hands of all those in favour?
That is also unanimous. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. White. Leader, can you introduce the report and move the making of South Hewish neighbourhood plan, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. And in doing so, I'd like to say a special commendation to South Hewish, because this includes Hope Cove, and that is the principal focus of this neighbourhood plan. Hope Cove currently has over 76% second homes. And this plan was stalled for a while because there just is not enough local capacity to do work that is required to make a neighbourhood plan in the area. They did find professional help in the end, and I'm very pleased that they did, because they've come together with quite a good plan now. So it gives me great pleasure to propose the recommendation to approve the making of the South Hewish Neighbourhood Development Plan.
Second, Chairman.
Thank you. All those in favour, please show.
That is once again unanimous. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. White. Leader, can you introduce the report on street parish plan and move the making, please?
Thank you, Chairman. It gives me great pleasure to approve the making of the street neighbourhood development plan, and I move the recommendation.
Thank you. And if I may, as one of mine, I will second it. Are there any questions? Can we have a show of hands, please? In favour?
That is once again unanimous. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. White. Right, thank you, members, for that. Right, item 25, we have no questions. So item 26, we have one motion received. Councillor Hodgson, would you like to move your motion, please?
So move, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Rose, I believe.
So seconded.
Chair, before you do, Councillor Hodgson is allowed.
If you'd like, sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, so why is this important? The CEU bill offers a viable framework for climate action based on scientific reality and was drafted by an alliance of scientists, academics, lawyers and environmentalists. It was officially...
Members, can you...
Can you hear me? Okay. Did you hear any of that? Do I need to start again? Okay. Okay, so why is this important? The CEE bill offers a viable framework for climate action based on scientific reality and was drafted by an alliance of scientists, academics, lawyers and environmentalists. It was officially published by Parliament on the 2nd of November 2020. The bill aims to ensure that the UK plays a fair and proper role in limiting global heating to 1.5 degrees centigrade and conserving the natural world by restoring essential ecosystems. More than 100 MPs from 5 political parties now officially support this bill, and it is gaining momentum with public opinion growing about the climate and ecological crisis and recognising how important it is to address this. To protect our planet and our future, it is undeniable that we will have to change the way we live. We could delay this until it is too expensive or too late to limit extreme damage and societal breakdown, or we can act now in a well-planned manner guided by legislation such as this bill offers. The nature of the crisis that we face demands a national, bold and far-reaching climate and ecological emergency strategy which will reboot our economy with a just transition to a zero-carbon society living in harmony with a thriving natural world. I ask all colleagues to show leadership in this time of environmental and ecological crisis and support this motion to back the CEE bill today. This will also align us with the position as adopted at Devon County Council last month and will press upon our MPs to support this important bill when it comes before Parliament in this coming session. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Rose, do you wish to speak now or hold your fire?
I wish to reserve my right to speak, please, Chairman.
Right. Okay, going to Councillor Rose. We'll go into the debate. Councillor Leader.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to move an amendment, please. And in so doing, I'd like to say that I did offer this to Councillor Hodgson over the weekend, but she turned it down. If Mr. White could circulate the amendment, I will then speak to it and explain why I'm doing it. Now, members, the reason I'm moving these amendments is that the CCE bill officially does not exist anymore. and it certainly doesn't exist at the moment. When Devon County Council had their debate, it did still exist till the end of that afternoon. And I'd like to read to you from a document which has come out of Westminster about prorogation and backbench bills. And this reads, following the prorogation of Parliament in May, the overwhelming majority of unpassed bills, including the CEE bill, were halted. Caroline Lucas will have to apply to bring the bill before the House of Commons again as a result. Until she does so, strictly speaking, the bill does not exist as far as Parliament is concerned. Even if Lucas does bring back the bill, as a backbench private member's bill, it is unlikely that there will ever be any parliamentary time available for it to be considered by MPs. I'd then like to go on and comment that rather than support a bill that has no chance of becoming law and engaging in empty gestures, those who care about climate change and our shared environment should instead work with the government to support and improve serious legislation like the Environment Bill. Now, I don't think we have ever had such a green party in government as the Conservative Party in this. Yeah, well, you can laugh if you like, but actually, when they pass the Environment Act, you won't be laughing. I don't think any of us will be. But anyway, the point of my amendment is that we support the aims of the Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill, because actually, if it doesn't exist, we can't support it, but we'll certainly support its aims. And supported by 96 cross-party members of Parliament, well, actually it wasn't. It had only managed to garner the support of just over 100 MPs by the time it fell. And it would actually need 320 or 25 or 26, I can't remember what the exact majority is, because I'm 326, isn't it? Yeah, so it wasn't going to go far anyway. But we are happy to support the aims, and so the three changes are the aims of in the right places and crossing out cross-party because it wasn't truly cross-party. But other than that, we are happy to support the motion. So in the aims of collaboration, I would hope that this amendment can be accepted, and then we can all go out of here supporting the aims of the Climate Change Emergency Bill. Thank you. Do I have a second?
Oh, so I was just going to ask that.
I'd like to second that, if I may.
Okay.
Can I speak now, or do I need to wait?
If you may, yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. Who else is? Okay, sorry. Can you hear me now? Is that? Yeah. Okay. Members, I think it is clear, as the leader has said, that the majority of us support the spirit of this bill and indeed the principle. But to be clear, as the leader said, the Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill was an early day motion tabled in the last parliamentary session, specifically on the 2nd of September 2020. This EDM fell, I believe it was actually on the 29th of April, when the last parliament was actually prorogued. Therefore, as the leader said, the EDM as mentioned in this motion does not exist at present. That does not mean to say that a similar EDM to propose such a bill will not be forthcoming. But at present, the motion for which Councillor Hodgson is seeking support from this council is not actually a thing. Now, I know that the private members' bill ballots was taking place this afternoon, and the people that come out with the top 5 will have their opportunities progressed. So what Councillor Pearce's amendment seeks to do is simply to make what is captured in the spirit of Councillor Hodgson's motion, but true and updated according to the current situation in Parliament. I therefore actually advise members that what Councillor Pearce is proposing would actually strengthen and give Councillor Hodgson's motion teeth. I'd also like to refer the Council and bring the Council's attention to the commitment outlined yesterday by DEFRA, where indicating an amendment to the forthcoming Environment Bill. This will, and I quote, require an additional legally binding target for species for 2030 to halt the decline of nature. This, along with backing a plan to treble planting in the UK and its commitment to 3 new community forests, which is backed by a commitment of £500 million in climate finance. This will in turn contribute to the government's target of 12% woodland coverage by the middle of the century. As I said, I think that by and large most of us are on the same page with this, and we all share the commitment of combating climate change. So I really would emphasise and encourage members to support Councillor Pearce's amendment. Thank you, Chairman.
Sorry, Chair, before we go any further on the debate on the amendment, we've had some feedback via someone watching the streaming actually not knowing what the amendment is in the absence of any screens. So would it be helpful if I just read out the amendment just so that anyone viewing proceedings knows what we're debating?
Thank you, Mr. White. Yes, please do.
Thank you, Chair. Therefore, the amendment reads as follows. In line with our formal declaration of a climate and biodiversity emergency and our commitment to actions to change behaviour to address the causes of this situation and mitigate the impacts, this Council supports the aims of the Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill proposed by a coalition of scientists, academics and lawyers with the aim of bringing the UK's climate policy into one with evolving scientific evidence. Currently, this is also supported by 96 members of Parliament. Full stop. Nationally, we need a strong legislative framework that embeds the government's targets in law, enabling us as supportive players to plan and develop our future trajectories to fit in with those targets. Council therefore resolves to 1. Support the aims of the Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill. 2. Inform the local media of this decision. 3. Write to local MPs, ask them to support the bill. And 4. Write to the CEE Bill Alliance, the organisers of the campaign for the bill, expressing its support for its aims. And there's an email address there being campaign@cbill.uk, close brackets. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. Okay. So we have had, is there anybody? Yeah, I'm looking for speakers, please. No, it's off again. Yeah.
Can I ask, two questions actually. You've just said, I think Councillor Pearce has said that the bill doesn't exist, but then you're actually saying in your amendment to write to local MPs asking them to support the bill. So that doesn't really make sense to me. And can I also ask, did not a single one of the 96 MPs, or I think you said actually it was over 100, that supported the bill, were none of those Conservative at all? Not a single one supported that climate change emergency bill? No, none?
Chairman, if I may reply to that, I am happy to I'm happy to add to number 3 that the local MPs, we'd write to the local MPs asking them to support the aims of the bill, as in the other amendments, if that can be added at this stage. And no, there were no Conservatives, because as I understand it, they are supporting their own environment bill.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just, it is a bit of a confusing amendment.
Can I second Councillor Pearce's amendment to the amendment?
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Right, any other comments, please? Yeah, Councillor Rose.
Thank you. I kind of, any of you who know me know that I actually, despite often being contrary in these meetings because of being a minority party, I actually tend to really want to just have a unified approach to everything. Unfortunately, that's not always possible. Both myself and Councillor Hodgson wrote a reply to Councillor Pearce's email with this amendment, explaining the reasoning behind why this amendment doesn't make sense. Councillor Sweet just highlighted one of the points, but essentially we already are we already support the aims of the bill. We declared a climate emergency. So stating at this point that we support the aims of the Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill doesn't actually make any difference whatsoever to what we're doing. The Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill is more than just a parliamentary bill, it's also a movement of councils. Just in Devon already, Devon County Council, East Devon District Council, Exeter City Council have all voted for this, and others are in the process as well. I would refer back to Councillor Pearce's opening comments of talking about the benefit of Devon authorities working together whenever they can. I could speak very, very passionately about the environment. I have done so many times in these kinds of meetings before. You don't need to hear it. You know my views on it. To be honest, I don't even know what the point is of being here, because the votes for these kinds of motions are essentially predetermined because the Conservative Party members in this room vote en masse. So no matter what we say, it's not going to make any difference, unfortunately. And I would challenge that way of operating. And I'm going to end there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rose. Yeah, Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm really disappointed that this request has come to amend this and effectively water down the motion, because actually we already support the aims of this bill through our declaration of a climate and ecological emergency. This is far more specific. When Devon County Council supported this bill on April the 29th, they endorsed the motion, encouraged local MPs to support the bill, etc., etc. And that was approved by 46 votes with 3 abstentions. That was complete cross-party. So there was no votes against. There was no concerns raised regarding parliamentary sessions. And I reiterate, if it's good enough for Devon County Council, why should SHDC water it down? An important element of the bill is that it supports alignments of our targets and plans to all work together. What's wrong with that? That's really important. If we water things down, then we will be the weak link in an important chain of local authorities, all potentially working together with the same level of determination to address the climate and ecological emergency. We could all sit back and examine our navels for the next 30 years, or instead of accepting the facts and just getting on with the jobs we need to do in response. In March, just 2 months ago, over 300 local businesses paid for a full-page advert in the Totnes Times to show their clear support for the bill and asked us to support it. As a local government public body, we are representative of the local society in this area, and it's very clear to me by the representations made to us that the majority of local people and many businesses in this area support the declaration of a climate and ecological emergency and want us to support this bill. And regarding the current status of the bill, the parliamentary session came to an end on the 29th of April, and the first phase of the campaign came to an end, but support from over 100 MPs, it was 106 at that stage, and hundreds of organisations, businesses, as well as over 43 local councils who have passed a motion supporting this bill. They will ensure that this bill is introduced at the earliest opportunity in the new parliamentary session, which started earlier this week. It has not disappeared, it is simply between parliamentary sessions. In summary, I do not believe we should modify and effectively water down this important motion. We should approve the motion as originally tabled. And I ask you to do this and show your leadership today, please.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Hotwood.
Thank you, Chairman. I listened to what Councillor Hodgson's just had to say.
Close to your microphone, please.
Oh, really? I'm disappointed that she took an advert out in the Totnes Times. That really isn't environmentally friendly, but or the local businesses did to support this bill, because that's not environmentally friendly. So I'm surprised you're promoting the fact that they did that. There's no whip on this. There's no whip that exists for this. It's people. You cannot vote for something that does not exist at the moment, and by not accepting the amendment, you're cutting your nose off to spite your face. If you accept the amendment, it would still have the same teeth as it has, but it would be more realistic, because it would be voting for the aims of something that may be brought back and may have a chance, but actually you're not going to get anywhere. Because I would presume that the members would be voting for the amendment, because it makes far more sense than voting for something that actually doesn't exist at the moment.
Thank you. Anybody else got anything to say? Councillor Birch.
Yeah. I'm certainly opposing this amendment. It's just so woolly. I mean, aims means nothing. It is just a concept. The bill itself is drafted. The fact that the bill is intransigent, then so be it. But the bill sets out in detail what is required and what is expected. The fact that the county council has accepted this by a large majority has given a positive lead. Why don't we also take a positive lead on it? The fact is, Councillor Hodgson made reference to the fact that this bill is supported by many local businesses, and that's been evidenced by their support and the fact that it is has been evidenced in the local newspapers. Aims means nothing. Aims means it's a fudge. What we need to do is follow what is being proposed by Councillor Hodgson. If we want to take the lead on supporting the measures needed to address the climate emergency and the biodiversity emergency, then we need to support Councillor Hodgson's proposal and not accept this woolly amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Holway?
Thank you, Chairman.
Or, no, sorry. Get my hand smacked. No, no, Councillor Hawkins was first on the list, and then Councillor Holway, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. I obviously was at the Devon County Council meeting where this bill was supported and voted on, and a majority was there to support it. But that's when there actually was a bill. There is no bill at present. So I can't understand Councillor Birch's comments about woolly, because we're supporting the aims of the bill. I can't understand what he's on about. We all support, I think, I hope, we all support the aims of the bill. And that's why I support this amendment, because there is no bill at the present moment. So it would be silly to support this motion because there is no bill. So until there is a bill brought back, and we all hope very much there will be, then we will support that bill when it comes forward, or in whatever form it is.
Thank you. Councillor Holway?
Thank you, Chairman. Well, yeah, I support the aims. From what I've seen of the bill, the proposed bill, I don't support all of it. For one thing, it wants another citizens' assembly to advise the Secretary of State. We already have 620 citizens in the House of Commons to represent all of us. We really don't want another talking shop. Now, in this part of the world, there's fantastic work already going on. We've heard about the support of the businesses and the people, and that is, I agree, fantastic. We've also got people litter picking. We've got people who come out and plant trees. They don't want to sit down and talk about it. Several of them have said to me, yeah, I'll come and plant trees. I'll do whatever you want. I'll come and tear up a bit of grass and put some seeds down, but I'm not going to come and talk about it. And so I'm very, very firm in my views that the less talking shops we have and the more people doing things like we are in this part of the world, the better off we'll all be.
Councillor Holway, well said. In fact, before anybody else says anything, I'm going to say something which will probably surprise one or two. I listen to what Councillor Rowe said. I get a bit frustrated as well because there is a lot of talking, but how much doing is there? I mean, as individuals, we have, as councillors, as I told you earlier on, I intimated it in my induction speech, that we have saved a lot of carbon by the way we work. But what have we all done as individuals? I have done my bit as a farmer in several different ways to cut my carbon footprint. I won't go into long details now, but I have managed to cut it by quite a bit, and people can do that. But we need to be doing stuff. One thing that Councillor Holway worried me about was tearing up grass to put in trees. That is not gaining anything at all, because
seeds
of what?
Flower seeds.
Oh, fair enough. But you're taking up pasture land releases an awful lot of carbon. Sorry.
Amenity land, Chairman.
Well, whatever. But you've got to be careful what you do. And planting trees, fine. I've already said I'd like to plant trees. But that also worries me. And a lot of people think that just by planting a few trees, and that includes people that fly back across from the States to support the demonstrations in London, a well-known actress that we knew, planted a few trees to mitigate that. That is nonsense. We've got to be a bit more upmarket than that. There's a lot we can all do and should be doing. And I listened to what Councillor Rowe said. He's quite right. We need to do a lot more. I couldn't support Councillor Hodgson's thing because of the wording. Nothing more. The principle of it, fine, absolutely fine. But those few words, the very fact that we were proposing to support something that doesn't exist, I can't do as a councillor. But I can support the motion, and I do support generally what she is actually trying to achieve. Right.
Can we move to the vote, Chairman, please?
Councillor Panel.
We've had a lot of talk about the bill not
Oh, yeah,
existing.
sorry.
Sorry, we've had a lot of talk about the bill not existing, and yet in the amendment it talks about the bill. Support the aims of the bill.
Councillor Panel, we've already dealt with that. Dealt with it a long time ago.
Well, why do people kept saying it throughout the debate then?
Councillor Brazil, I'm sorry, I missed you out.
Thank you, Chairman. No, what I was wondering is that I wouldn't be at all surprised if one of the MPs that have come up in the private members' bill ballot puts forward this bill. So if that is the case, can we have some wording within it which says that if that is the case, then we're happy to support the bill rather than the aims of the bill that doesn't exist? Because at that stage it would exist, and then we would support it, and then I think we can all agree. Because I think from what I've heard is that you were all very happy to support the bill when it existed. It's only because it's disappeared. So if it is, if it does rise again, then I assume that we'd all support the bill as it is. So I wonder if that is the case from my fellows over there, that they would indeed support a new bill. And not just the aims of it, but the bill. Thank you.
Chairman, can we deal with this amendment before we move on to an amendment of amendment?
What is the procedure, Mr. White? If an amendment comes to an amendment?
We deal with one amendment at any given time.
Right.
Thank you, Chair.
So we'll deal with this amendment. Councillor. Yeah.
Can I ask advice, please, on this? I just want to ask advice. I'm actually prepared to withdraw it, my whole motion, at this stage, on the basis that it sounds like, I can count and I know exactly what's going to happen in the next few minutes. And it strikes me that since there seems to be a challenge as to whether the bill exists or not, which I would actually contest, but I would rather withdraw it and be able to bring it back, possibly next meeting, when there maybe the bill has been retabled, because I'm assured by various bodies that it is going to be retabled. I'd just like to be assured by our monitoring officer whether or not the 6 months bill would suddenly apply again, or whether if I withdraw it altogether, we can then reintroduce it as and when it becomes an item that we can discuss properly.
I will put your question, Councillor, to, I think, David.
Thank you, Chairman. To withdraw the notice, you would need the consent of your seconder, and also the meeting would have to consent to that happening. No councillor can now speak once you've asked now for your motion to be withdrawn. In other words, it's a question now going to the vote as to whether or not the meeting indicates its consent to the withdrawal of the motion. As to whether or not you bring it back, then if you withdraw it, then there's no decision on the notice of motion. Therefore, there is no decision that's been made in the previous 6 months. So you would be able to bring it back.
Is it my power to withdraw, or does it have to be a vote? I didn't think we normally have a vote on a withdrawal.
You can withdraw it. The procedure rule says a councillor may withdraw a motion which he or she has moved with the consent of both the meeting and the seconder.
Okay.
The meeting's consent will be signified without discussion. No councillor may speak on the motion after the mover has asked permission to withdraw unless permission is refused.
Okay. May I therefore request permission to withdraw the motion?
Seconded.
That was Councillor Rose, yes. Seconded that. So no,
We now move to vote on withdrawing the motion.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
all those in favour of withdrawing the motion, show their hands, please.
That is 26 in favour. Thank you, Chair. With one against. Thank you, Chair.
Any abstentions?
No abstentions. Thank you, Chair.
Right. So that motion, Councillor, is being withdrawn. Okay. After all that, we now move on to reports of bodies, I believe. If I may just ask those who are reporting on the bodies, unless there's... No, I'm looking a bit further than you, Councillor Birch. I know somebody's going to stand up about 3 times any time. Just move the minutes of that meeting rather than going by page, unless there is a recommendation within them. And I think the only one with a recommendation is the executive meeting.
Correct. Thank you,
So
Chair.
I would save you a bit of time, Councillor Brazil.
Thank you,
So,
Chairman.
Solcombe Harbour Board.
Yeah, I'm happy to Chair.
Councillor Pennington, we will get to the executive in a minute, okay? Right, I will take your question then, okay? Right.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, happy to move the minutes of the Solcombe Harbour Board from the 15th of March 2021.
Thank you. Could you then move the minutes of the Development Management Committee, the 31st of March?
Yeah, happy to move the minutes of the DMC, the 31st of March, Chairman.
So, Holloway, would you move the minutes of the Audit Committee of the 8th of April 2021, please?
Happy to move the minutes of the Audit Committee meeting on the 8th of April 2021, Chairman.
Thank you, Chair. Therefore, those collective sets of minutes are all noted. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Pennington, I am going to the executive, the meeting of the executive. Sorry, I can't hear you. Can you speak into your mic, please?
Okay. If you look at the document pack under on page 72, under the executive, there is, in fact, I have a quorum here. It does. Appears to me to be a contradiction when it comes to the question of the executive and so on. And that is on page 72. It does say that the quorum for the meeting of 2 things. The quorum for the meeting of the executive will be no less than half the membership. Okay? And then immediately underneath it, it says the quorum for the meeting of the executive committee will be not less than 2 members of the executive. It can't be both. It cannot be both. It's either half the members or it's 2 members.
Can I have...
Can I help, Chair?
Mr. White, please.
This is part of the Constitution review, which is going to come back to the July Council, Mr. Councillor Pennington, and this is obviously in draft form at the moment. So thank you for picking that one up, because it's going to go to the Audit Committee as well. There's a commitment given that the annual review of the Constitution will go to the next Audit Committee meeting. So we'll pick that up in the meantime, but this isn't today deciding these procedure rules. This is going to come back to the Council in accordance with the deferral earlier in the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Pennington. Councillor Pearce, would you like to... Oh, sorry, Councillor Rose.
May I ask a question unrelated to this item? I'll just say it really quickly. It's like, just wondering why we're all using all this paper when we've got computers and projectors and we've all been given plastic water bottles.
That was for today because of where we are. We will be going back paperless as ASAP, as soon as we possibly can.
Thank you very much.
Okay? Right. Councillor Pearce, would you like to present the minutes of the executive, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I will. And I've got an email here that's come up on my screen. Let's get it out of the way. And I would like to move, in particular, on page 30, that Council be recommended to approve the use of up to £498,000 from the Business Rates Retention Earmark Reserve to fund any wider business support measures approved by Council on the 25th of March but cannot be funded by the new ARG allocation. Now, members will recall the circumstances of this. We are trying to pay, well, in fact, we are paying out all our remaining ARG allocations so that we will be eligible for a further allocation in June. But it's not until we see the regulations attached to that that we shall know whether we can take the 498,000 from that we were going to take out of the old allocation. But we felt it was much better for businesses in the district to benefit from that money so we could have a further allocation. And that's the reason it's an only if recommendation.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Hodgson.
Yeah, I just wanted to be assured before we take this recommendation that second home owners won't be included in any further business grants, because I assume that the criteria will have changed for this, because I found that that was really out of line.
Councillor Hodgson, second home owners are not given ARG grants.
Councillor Brazil.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. This 498,000 that we're talking about here, and the approved by the council on the 25th of March, that was, of course, was an urgent item that was suddenly thrown at us the day or two before. Rather odd that we can discuss that, but we're not allowed to talk about the issue that is affecting so many of our residents at the moment today. But just on that, I think it might be quite useful if somebody could tell us exactly what the £498,000 was going to be used for. I certainly won't be supporting it coming out of the business rates retention earmarked reserve. It should be coming out of the general reserve, because it would be an emergency. We've had that argument before. Because my feeling is that what I seem to remember is what this is doing. It is actually, it's a lot of it is being spent on providing extra officers to doing what the council should be doing anyway. So I'd be disappointed if we were using this reserve for that. I'd also like to add that I know that the businesses in Kingsbridge from the Chamber of Commerce put forward a scheme, an idea that they were going to support local businesses with £250 for them to spruce up their premises, and many of them took them up on that. But this council has refused to support that. So here we have a Chamber of Commerce saying what they think should be done in order to support our local businesses, and yet this council seems to think that it knows better about how hundreds of thousands of pounds of taxpayers' money should be spent supporting local businesses. So I've got real issues with this, and particularly from the reserve that it will be coming from.
Thank you, Councillor Brazil. Yes, Councillor Pearce.
Can I just emphasise that it is unlikely that it will be taken from the business rates retention earmark reserve, but we had to have a contingency because we don't have the actual regulations. Now, if the regulations remain the same as they've remained with all the other ARG grants, then we could take that money from the further allocation in June, because it is said that there is allowance for wider business support, and it would come under that, that heading. Now, Councillor Brazil, I am unaware of your Kingsbridge Chamber of Commerce instance, but I'd be happy to take that up because I was not aware that they'd been turned down. And in fact, I've given a good chunk, and I know the Kingsbridge members have too, of my locality fund to help shops in Kingsbridge reopen and look spruce and all the rest of it after they've been closed. So I'm surprised to hear that. I don't know whether Councillor Bastian's got anything to say about this.
I've no information on that either.
I could just say I think it might have, I'm presuming we were asked to put our locality funds towards it because they were turned down in the first place.
No, I don't think so. We were asked before that money was made available, Councillor O'Callaghan. I'm certain of that. And we'd already given it when this money became available.
Just wait, and then Councillor Birch.
Hi, I'm just declaring a pecuniary interest in this item as I'm a sole trader and been in receipt of the
Understood. Thank you.
ALGs. Thank you.
Councillor Birch.
Yeah, I'd like to propose an amendment to the recommendation that is on the paper. And the recommendation is that of the...
Sorry, before we move on, if Councillor Sweet's declaring a disclosable pecuniary interest DPI, she should leave the meeting room if that's the case.
I will do that, thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Birch.
Chairman, if I can, I don't think that is a disclosable pecuniary interest. It's not, the item is not about her business, so she's quite free to take part.
Right. Tell her you come back again. Is she returning? Councillor Birch, do you want to proceed, please?
Right, my amendment is to add to the recommendation on the paper, and the amendment is that of the sum of £498,000, a sum of £100,000 be utilised for addressing the current waste collection crisis that prevails throughout the district. That is my proposed amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Birch. Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Right. We need to discuss this now.
We are debating the amendment. The amendment's been seconded.
Can I speak to my amendment? Yeah. Members, I'm sure you're all aware of the current crisis that prevails throughout the district in respect of the waste collection, and in particular the recyclable waste collection. I'm sure many members are being inundated with the complaints from their constituents at the mass of the non-collection.
Chair, just a minute, Councillor Birch. David, monitoring officer, thank you.
Sorry, I would like to know how this is relevant to the use of the money that's being proposed, that was recommended for expenditure by the executive. This appears to be deviating off the agenda.
Can we have a clarification of what the 498,000 is? Because I think you'll find it's very much.
That money was for business support and for opening up and for associated summer contingencies, like we were having extra personnel for extra locality officers, the COVID compliance officers, and the extra bin emptying that is occasioned by extra takeaway and litter in the towns. I think I'm correct in saying that. I can't remember all the details of it, and I don't have everything in front of me. And unfortunately, we don't have the Oracle and Mrs. Buckle with us today, but that, to my recollection, and there was the 250,000 plus for the towns on the match-funded spending for their for their business opening up projects. So that was. I don't know if the chief executive can help us out on that for the extra details.
Point of order. I started to speak to my amendment. I think I should be allowed to finish. We seem to have...
Not until we're clear that you can actually do it, if that is the case.
No, you're trying to... what in fact is happening is you're trying to stifle debate on this. The fact that I'm entitled to put forward an amendment. I think the fact that what has been raised by the monitoring officer is not relevant. I've put forward an amendment, it's been seconded, and I should be allowed to continue to speak to my amendment.
I'm sorry, Councillor Birch, if I've got to choose between what you say and what the monitoring officer says, as a councillor, I'd have to defer to the monitoring officer. And he has questioned whether you could actually bring this up on this situation. Sorry?
But then it should not be should be necessary for the leader of the council to join in. A question was being put to me, and I was not given an opportunity to answer it.
Chairman, if it assists, the relevant council procedure rule says that speeches must be directed to the question under discussion, or a personal explanation, or a point of order. I was asking Councillor Birch how or what the points he was making had any relevance to the purposes for which the ARG was being used.
It is relevant, because...
I'm sorry, Councillor Birch, I'm going to rule what you're saying out of order on the advice of the
I'm not
Monitor.
allowed to answer the question. I'm
No.
not allowed to answer the question.
Because it's not relevant to what
How do you
we're
know?
doing.
I want to answer the question, and I will quote from the recommendation that came before the the council, on the 25th of March, when this was introduced at the last minute. Item 1, keeping the streets clean, £130,000. How can we keep the streets clean when the waste is not being collected, when we have a crisis? There it is, it's spelt. I would suggest you look at agenda item 6, 25th of March 2021, recommendation. One of the recommendations is keeping the streets clean, 130,000. I am asking that of this 498,000, 100,000 be used for sorting out the waste crisis that is throughout South Hants. And to dodge that is not doing this council any good. It's already suffered reputational damage as a result of this non-collection. So please let me proceed with my amendment.
Let you proceed. Councillor Hopwood?
Thank you, Chairman.
No, I've ruled.
Due to the advice of the monitoring officer, I'd like to move next business.
Seconded.
Right, we'll move to the vote. Question be put.
Even.
No, sorry.
Therefore, members, we are voting on part 2 of the recommendation as per page 30 of the agenda papers, that reads that council be recommended to approve the use of up to 498,000 from the business rates retention earmark reserve to fund any wider business support measures approved by the council on 25th of March 2021 that cannot be funded from the new ARG allocation. Therefore, members, all in favour, please. That's 16 in favour. All against?
Those against?
Nine against. Thank you, Chair.
Any abstentions? One abstention.
Two abstentions.
Two
Chair.
abstentions. Thank you. Right. Where are we now after that? That is the end of the meeting. Yes? Right. Before I close the meeting. Yep.
There's one, before we move on, Chair, there's one recommendation in the exec
the
papers
recommendation,
on
yes,
electric
sorry.
charging points.
Councillor Pearce.
If I may, Chair, it's page 35 of the agenda papers, parts 2 and 3.
Beg your pardon, everybody. So this is to do with the electric vehicle charging points. Recommendation 2 at the top of page 35, that council be recommended to approve the capital expenditure of up to £170,000 from the capital programme contingency reserve, as set out in the finance paper of the agenda report, as follows: 80,000 for the upgrade of the network and rapid charger installation at Totnes Depot, and 90,000 for the network upgrade and limited initial phase of additional rapid chargers at Fullerton House to facilitate the conversion of the light commercial vehicle fleet to electric vehicles. Further, number 3, that council be recommended to approve the spend of up to £15,000 funded from the Climate Change Earmark Reserve to fund an externally commissioned report to investigate and scope opportunities primarily for electric vehicle charging points within the council's property portfolio, namely car parks, depots and offices. Additionally, to explore opportunities for solar and battery storage across the estate, full stop.
Thank you. So we now go to the, well, seconder, please.
Seconded.
Right. Councillor Rose, you've got a question to ask.
I just wonder why we need to spend £15,000 on this review for the EV points. It seems a little bit much.
Who's going to answer that question?
I think that we're going to have to spend a considerable amount of money when this comes forward, and it's well worth spending £15,000 with people who really know what they're onto. And I think it's APSI we're going to use for this. Is it? Can somebody confirm that? But there are people who really know this well and will be able to advise us on the best way of doing it. And
right. Mr. Powell, I think you might have.
Yeah, so just, I mean, the £15,000 is to cover the feasibility report. We are using APSI. Sorry, we are using APSI. Apologies, I think I've got the dodgy mic. Yeah, we're looking at covering quite a lot with this £15,000, so that's the fee to get APSI involved. They are the experts in the field with local authorities. They've done very similar work across a number of different authorities. We will be looking not just at EV charging points, we're looking at solar, we're looking at the whole of our portfolio of assets as well. So it's a considerable piece of work that we need covering.
Right, thank you. Councillor Sweet.
Hi, thank you. Just a couple of bits of clarity, please, on 2B. The 90,000 for the network upgrade, or to facilitate the conversion of the light commercial vehicles fleet to electric vehicles, which obviously I really welcome this, theoretically. I just thought that, aren't they brand new vehicles already? I just wondered when they were replaced. And I know that when we had lots of discussions about the recycling vehicles that are, you know, obviously proving quite controversial for other reasons at the moment, which we're not allowed to talk about. But I thought that we couldn't have electric vehicles, we couldn't have electric recycling vehicles because we didn't have the network infrastructure throughout the whole of Southampton and West Devon to be able to charge those vehicles. So can we be assured that we do have the network to charge all of our light commercial vehicles if we spend another load of money replacing vehicles which I understand are already quite new? Thank you. So 2 questions there, really.
Can anybody help me out on that one?
Yes, Chair, I can help out on that one. In terms of the infrastructure, the first thing is to make sure we've got the actual charging points at our main depots and at the offices. We'll then be working on a network to ensure that we've got coverage using not just our own premises, but also nationally available and locally available charging sites. And in terms of the age of the fleet, the actual light vehicle fleet isn't new. We have an R&M budget which ensures that over time we can renew that fleet, and we're trying to accelerate that renewal to ensure that they are all EV vehicles.
Right, can I just come back on that? Thank you. So I thought that they were new, but is there a reason then why we couldn't charge the recycling vehicles if in those same depots? I know we've moved on a bit, but I think it's just something worth mentioning, really. And if we are going into a review of the controversial recycling system, which seems like we probably will need to, because lots of people want to talk about it, lots of members of the public are sort of really desperate to have answers about it, maybe something that could be looked at. So yeah, just felt that was worth raising. Thank you.
Thank you. I will, just before I close this meeting, I just want to thank everybody here.
Sorry, Chair, before you wind up, we haven't had a vote on those
Oh,
recommendations.
sorry. Yeah, okay. Can we have a vote on the recommendation, please? All those in favour?
Is this both recommendations?
En bloc, en bloc. That is unanimous. Thank you, members.
Just before I close the meeting, I just want to thank everybody for their forbearance in working in somewhat difficult conditions, but we've got through it. And also thank all those at Kilworthy here who've made us as comfortable as they possibly can in the situation we find ourselves in. I think we might be back here for another meeting yet, until we can fully comply back at Folleton, but I don't think that's going to be, for a big meeting like this, unfortunately, it's just not feasible, unfortunately. So therefore, I all thank you for your attendance and declare the meeting closed.